As you guys are entering the room, please go ahead and rename yourself and put your district name after your first and last name, please. And I'll put those directions in the chat as well. Okay.
So glad so many of you are joining us. We know the weeks leading up to winter break are always busy, so thank you for being here. Good morning, Cheryl. Hey, Jacinta.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to those who are just joining us. If you wouldn't mind, please renaming yourself in the chat, include your district as well. We'll be getting started in a little bit under a minute.
Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you.
Good morning, Annie.
Morning.
Should we go and get started?
We're so glad you're here, Annie. We're excited to hear from you.
Thanks.
You're sharing the screen already? Okay, good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to the PBIS Coaching Network for December 15th, 2022, hosted by State Support Team number 3, as well as the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio. We're very glad that you're here. If you have not yet done so, if you would please help us out with one thing, if you could please rename yourself in the chat and then make sure, rename yourself and make sure that you have your district included as well. That will help us with introductions. Thank you very much. And now we're going to turn it over to one of our consultants, Miki Wiggins, for an icebreaker.
Do you hear what I hear? I hear the sound of jingle bells, so that could only mean one thing. It's the most wonderful time of the year. For our icebreaker this morning, we want you to reflect on the following question. Listen closely and don't respond until I give you the signal. So what is your school doing to engage parents during this holiday season? Or you can answer this question from the perspective of a parent. What has your child's school done to engage you as a parent during this holiday season? And this engagement can take on many different forms. It can be you physically being present or you participating in some type of activity. But again, how is your district or your building or your child's school or district engaging you as a parent, or what are you doing to engage families this holiday season? So we're going to create our holiday waterfall. When you hear the signal go, reflect on your response. And go. We're looking forward to seeing what you're doing or what you're participating in, how you're engaging families during this holiday season.
Like glitter, glitter.
Lots of glitter, glitter for days. See, Christmas concert.
Breakfast
Bre-
with Santa.
Oh,
Oh,
snowball dance. Okay. Gingerbread making.
Ice skating.
Bridge Day today, holiday party. Lots of good things happening. 'Tis the season,
Movie night.
Spirit Week. Sounds great. And for those of you who haven't done anything yet, you just got a lot of good ideas, so you've got a couple days. Winter Wonderland, that sounds like fun. Tree decorating contest.
Donations from the community. Cool.
Food and toy drive, okay.
I like that.
Holiday movie recommendations. Yes, Frozen Loop. In my house, it's Home Alone.
Okay.
The Santa Claus
Okay,
movies, those are a good one.
okay. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. So now, link to today's presentation is right there. Brian will be putting it in the chat as well. And just in case you missed last session, there's a link for that as well, and that will also be put into the chat just in case you missed last month's session. If you wouldn't mind, please click on that link for attendance. Please note that certificates of participation will be given using this attendance roster. So in order to receive your certificate, you will need to go to that link and go ahead and fill out your attendance, please, for today. We appreciate it. And Brian can push it out to the chat as well. On our next slide, these are our regional PBIS consultants from both the ESC and State Support Team 3. We work so well together, so that you may be familiar with some of the people right there, that slide. So what is the purpose of the PBIS Coaching Network? Of course, it's to help schools implement and sustain PBIS. And we collectively discuss and share best practices. So that's the purpose of this network and why we're here today. Our agenda today, we'll start off with building our district spotlight, which will be starting in momentarily. We'll also do a focused TFI item review, focusing on 1.10 faculty involvement, as well as 1.11 student, family, and community involvement. Then we'll have discussion and networking by means of our breakout rooms. You'll get more details on that later if this is your first time with us today. We'll have state updates and resources. And then at 10 o'clock from 10 to 10:30, those that want to stay logged in, that will be for district considerations. We'll have some more information for you there as well. Last month, we did a poll. We're discussing whether or not to continue the meetings virtually or whether to move them in person. About 70% of the respondents did prefer to continue meetings virtually. So therefore, for the remainder of the 2022-2023 school year, our meetings will remain virtual. So you'll continue to get the links for the Zoom links for our meetings, our coaching networks. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Linda Blanche, and she's going to introduce you to our guest speaker for the day.
Morning, everybody. I'm super happy to introduce Ann Obradovich because I had the privilege of working with her for about 4 years when I was a PBIS coach in the Euclid City Schools. My office was in the high school on the same floor as Ann's office. So, and she was super active on the high school team at that time and has since then taken over leadership of that team. So Ann is all about kids, a really awesome leader. And we're lucky to have her here today to talk about amazing work that they are doing with a community partner. So I'll turn it over to you, Ann.
Thank you, Linda. That was so kind of you. I appreciate all those nice words. Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in today. We wanted to talk a little bit today about family and community engagement. Our PBIS team is a very, very large team at Euclid High School. We have approximately 20 members of our team. A lot of our members receive supplementals, some do not. Our student team consists of about 12 students as well. We also have parents and community members a part of our PBIS team. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we've involved our families and our community on our PBIS team. So if we want to go to the next slide. So the one link that we have is with our Euclid Public Library. So truth be told, I'll kind of rewind, about 5 years ago, and Linda may attest to this. We actually didn't have the best relationship with our public library. And I know that a lot of people are like, how is that possible? You're a school. Well, our public library is right next door to our high school. And we do not have aftercare. So quite often our students would go to the library as a place to congregate. And unfortunately, sometimes problems would occur on their property right after school. And so we tried to work through those, issues with them. And it was very difficult because, we were doing things in our building, they were doing things in their building. And we thought, you know what, we need to come together and figure out a way to solve this problem and embrace our students and figure out where the issues lie and collaborate. So we invited Ben Fagan, who is one of the library's workers over there. He deals with the teenagers in that building when they come over. He became a part of our PBIS team. And he came to every meeting along with Ray Ford. He was a wonderful addition to our PBIS team. And they actually helped us understand the library's perspective, and we helped them understand the school-based perspective. And they began to understand the power behind PBIS and what it could do to help change behavior that we saw as being problematic. So throughout that year that they came to us, they stayed on it for years, the PBIS team. But over the year, we started to talk about the matrix. And if the next slide, this is a little quick glimpse of our matrix. Oh, yeah, there you go. So our matrix, we like to include posters in our matrix just because we post these all around the building. This is a very, very small glimpse of what our matrix truly looks like. There's way more information in our matrix than this, but I wanted to kind of show you what our matrix looks like at Euclid High School. Our mantra is be respectful, be responsible, be engaged. And we actually have all those expectations there. And if you click to the next slide, you'll see our Euclid Public Library has almost a mirrored matrix, but customized to their building. Their mantra is be respectful, be responsible, be engaged as well. And their areas are listed there on the left. They've updated some of their expectations in the middle here. So it took us some time to get through some of these because we had to, talk about the wording within their matrix and make sure they understood the positive way to convey the information. So that is an example of what it is. And if you can see on the bottom right, they have it posted next to a restroom. I wanted to include a picture. They have it posted all over their library, some of the expectations that they have. So we have since gone further with our relationship with our library. And if you click to the next slide, I could talk a little bit about that. We have created what's called Know Before You Go library videos. So they pretty much explain the expectations of the library. We actually collaborate with the library and show those videos to our students every year at the beginning of the year when we're reviewing our expectations for our matrix. We play these videos for the students so they understand that we work in collaboration with the library and the rules are shared and the conversations are shared. So when they do go over to the library, they understand that our expectations go with them. So these YouTube videos are shown to each student in August. We find that they're very beneficial. The library is the ones that are putting these videos on. So the library, Mr. Ford and Mr. Fagan are actually speaking in these videos to the students in regards to the expectations and review of their matrix. So it's nice because it actually shows that connection between the library and us. The other thing we've done is incorporated our positive behavior referral system with the library. So in our building, Positive behavior referrals are written from staff members to students if they acknowledge that the students have done something wonderful in the school building. We have since shared that link with our library staff. So if they see our students doing something great at the library, they can write them a shout out and we get it and we present it to the student here in our building. And we call home and praise the student for their great work at the library. And that's happened a couple times this year already. Further, we've actually received donations from the library since then. We're getting donations from them to incorporate into our PBIS prize cart, which we push around the building everywhere we go to reward students for good behavior. They gave us nice water bottles and pencils and different donations that we've included into their prize cart. And then we also continue to have the team members represented on our PBIS team even to this day. So I wanted to share some of those things with you. I know that's a lot of information in a short period of time. And again, this took a long time to develop. This is not something that we did overnight or within a school year. This is something, as Linda can attest to, we started this 4 years ago. And since we've grown and added more things with our library to truly incorporate our partnership and our collaboration together. So I hope I covered everything, Linda. I hope.
I think you did. And what I'm thinking is you guys need to be presenting at the PBIS showcase, which just was in December. So keep that in mind for next year.
Of course, absolutely. Any questions that I could answer or anybody have any?
Annie, this is outstanding. I just sent Linda a message like, this is unbelievable, both for a high school where we know that implementation at a secondary level is sometimes more of a challenge, but also just your persistence in making sure that even when your students are off campus, they're representing your building well. So just, I'm so impressed. My question for you is, can you tell us a little bit more detail about like how this started? Did the library come to you frustrated with the behaviors? Did you get wind from your students that was the spot to be because teachers always know where the kids are? How did that start?
It was a little bit of both. There was a little bit of frustration on the library's end because the students were coming to the library, not necessarily there to learn or to study. And so they would be in contact with us in regards to that. And sometimes we would be in contact with them because we would get rumor of a fight or a problem or a disruption over there from our students. And then we would contact the library in order to investigate or look at their cameras or have conversations with their staff. So over time, we just noticed that those problems just kept coming up over time. And we just felt the need to, address it and not be afraid to have those tough conversations, but work in collaboration because we all wanted the same thing. And that's what we realized. So they wanted to, when they saw the power of what PBIS can do in the building and the respect level and the, expectations and the posters and the reward systems that we had in place, they really wanted to do that. And since then, they have now a PBIS reward basket that's in their library that they reward students on site because they saw how wonderful it can be in changing behavior and encouraging students to do the right thing. So I think that, initially, sometimes it starts off with some tough conversations, but those conversations need to be had in order to make improvements moving forward.
And I think it also partly got started. Ray Ford was an employee at the library at the time, and he was also a parent of a student in the high school. And I think he was coming in and doing some volunteering. And then that's sort of how the conversation started. And then he became part of the high school PBIS team, and it just sort of snowballed from there. And does he now work for the school?
He does. He's a teacher at the middle school now. Isn't that great?
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yes, he's an English teacher.
Next level partnership.
Right. I mean, it does get better than that. Right.
And there's a question in the chat from Christina Delaney. How long have you been growing the relationship with them?
Oh boy. Linda, I'd say
Yeah.
5 years now.
Yeah, I would say.
Say about 5 years. Yep, 5 years. It takes time. But once you have things established, it starts to really move along seamlessly. And you just need to tweak certain things along the way. And so, it's not going to all work right off the bat. And you have to adjust some things along the way, but be persistent because it does end up working itself out and it turns into a better thing for everybody.
Annie, I want to ask, because I think as you're getting awesome compliments in the chat here about this partnership and how it's working, can you discuss a little bit about what was the most challenging piece of getting that partnership to really work? I know it's been time, but is there anything, was it the using this positive language? Was it, demonstrating what it looks like? I guess, can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Sure. I think that one of the challenges was mindset of our library staff. And they would admit to the same thing because they only saw our students in a negative perception at those times. And I think allowing them to join our PBIS team showed them, the importance of making sure they understand that our students are good kids. And there's a couple of bad apples, like we all know, here and there, but not to be in a perception of all Euclid High School students are bad students. That's not the case. So that partnership, again, it took time, but I think their growth mindset over time, it was a little bit of a challenge at first, but they admitted that they needed to grow in a better capacity when it came to knowing our students. But I also think that with the growth mindset also, like I said, comes tough conversations. And those tough conversations sometimes need to happen on an individual level or even a group level.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. I think that's very impactful. I think anytime we're trying to lift PBIS, I think that growth mindset is a big factor in that. So thank you for sharing. If you do have any questions for Annie, please feel free to put it in the chat. I know you're crunched for time, so we definitely want to give you the time that you need to get to your next meeting. And if we do find something that we need to capture, then we'll send you an email or something like that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, you guys. I hope everybody has a great holiday and a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Annie.
Thank you.
Here.
All right, so thank you again, Annie. That was just a joy to hear about, even though I've been in the high school a bunch in your PBIS meetings. I haven't had a chance to really delve into what you're doing in the community, so that's awesome. It was great to hear. I hope it energized everybody else. And so kind of going on that, looking at where we are regionally for 1.10, 1.11, and then I even included in terms of tier 3, 3.6, because there's student and family community involvement when doing more individualized plans. And so you can see on this graph here, it just kind of shows where for all rubrics that were scored within our region, where we are in terms of faculty and student family involvement. But if we delve a little deeper on the next slide, we can see the comparison in terms of those that applied for bronze, those that applied for silver, and those that applied for gold. And like the past months, it's broken up by the average over all of those who applied and the average of those who actually received recognition and those who have not yet gotten recognition in that area. So one of the things that's stuck out to me within this, and I just want to share, is the importance of that faculty and student involvement, especially as you build up your system, that you can, if you look at especially the involvement is pretty, for those who got recognized both at bronze and silver, it's pretty much even. But then in order to really get that third tier up and running, that faculty and student involvement, student, teacher, family, and community involvement really needs to be strong and sustained in order to be able to have PBIS fully implemented in all 3 tiers. And so I just really wanted to share, the importance of it. I know one of the biggest things in terms of it is not to check off the box to say you have somebody there, but I think Annie did a really good job of showing an example of the why behind why you want to have the community involvement or why you want to have a family involvement and student involvement. It's not there just to say you have it, but really to have that input to be able to build up your systems.
So now we're going to take a look specifically at those items of the TFI, 1.10 faculty involvement and 1.11 student family community involvement. First of all, what is required? And then also what might that evidence look like depending on your building. So starting off with 1.10 faculty involvement, Faculty are shown school-wide data regularly and provide input on universal foundations at least every 12 months. So for example, that might be the expectations, the system of acknowledgement, definitions, consequences. So a 2 on 1.10, what does that look like? That faculty would be shown data at least 4 times per year and have provided feedback on tier 1 practices within the past 12 months. So if you look at the next slide, here's some examples of evidence. We want to thank Strongsville Middle School for letting us borrow a few items from their last year's TFI, or submission, I should say, binder submission. So if you take a look there, you'll see that they've got their staff meeting agendas linked. They also have their PBIS agendas linked to show that that they had received feedback from those stakeholders. And that was also shared back out with the whole staff as well. So what does that evidence look like? The self-assessment survey, which of course can be opened in PBIS apps. It could also look in the form of informal surveys, staff meeting minutes, and then your team meeting minutes. So there we see the example of the team meeting minutes, the staff meeting minutes, and then also a few other items that they have as well. Now looking at 1.11, oh, sorry, I forgot. Before I get to 1.11, a couple more examples of evidence, also from Strongsville Middle, and then also the blue chart there that came from one of the schools in Warrensville. When you look at breaking down your data and what data you want to share back out, first of all, with your team, and then also back out with all of your staff, there are many different ways that it can look. So you've got the charts there looking at the one chart that looks at each of the different expectations, broke it down by group. The one chart I like because it's not specific as to what grade level it is. Obviously, they would know internally, but it refers to them by group names. The other one, if you look at the blue chart there, I really like that one as well. That one's from Warrensville, behavior incidence breakdown, because it looks at what are the top 3 grades with the most incidences, incident types. So obviously that data and sharing it out, disaggregating your data, that can look however you want it to look, but obviously an integral part of item 1.10 and making sure that you're getting feedback from staff, sharing that back out with staff as well. So if we move on to 1.11, student, family, community involvement. So that would be that stakeholders, students, families, community members provide input on universal foundations at least every 12 months. And again, just like with staff, that's on the expectations, consequences, and system of acknowledgement. So a 2 on 1.11, that would be that documentation exists. Documentation is the key word there, that students, families, and community members have provided feedback on tier 1 practices within the past 12 months. And that's also the other key factor, within the past 12 months. If you received feedback 2 years ago, obviously that's not recent enough. You want to make sure it's within the past 12 months, every 12 months minimum. So now what might that look like? Examples of evidence, surveys. It could be voting results from parent and family meetings. Also the team meeting minutes. You want to make sure that's captured in your team meeting minutes. So again, we brought a couple of items from the binder that was given to SST3 last year with the permission of Strongsville Middle School. We see that they had a meeting with parents where it was shared back out. We also see the opt-out survey as well, an example of an opt-out survey. And if you look at the next slide, a few more pieces of evidence, and we see community involvement. If you look at the top right, community leaders breakfast, they brought community leaders into the building. So again, involving community as well, parents, families, and communities. So that's a little bit more detail about 110 and 111. At this point, we're going to move into our breakout rooms, and Ryan will be giving you more direction as far as our breakout rooms.
Yeah, thanks for that. So as you're, viewing some examples regionally of what's going on and what some districts are doing, we do have an activity for you to get with your common groups that we've had for the past several networks. So we're going to push out breakout rooms. It's going to look like this. Group 1 is going to be tier 1 early childhood and elementary. Group 2 is gonna be tier 1, middle school, high school. And then group 3 is gonna be tier 2 and tier 3 for all grade levels. If you're a district member, you can kind of pick and choose where you want to go. We're gonna look for 15 minutes for these breakout rooms. We have some guiding questions for you to look at, maybe examine, and hopefully have some organic conversations. We will have a representative from either the SST or the ESC to help facilitate those conversations. So if you happen to see Jillian will be in with tier 1, Stephanie will be in tier 1 for, or excuse me, Miki's gonna be in tier 1 for middle school, high school. And then tier 2, tier 3 will be Stephanie. And Eric and I will pop into a couple groups. But feel free to have these conversations. And so what we're gonna ask you to do, and I'm gonna put this resource here in the chat in a second, but there's a great rubric from the Family Engagement Center from the Ohio State University. And what it does, it breaks it down into 5 different categories of how to do a self-assessment of your building and where you are with that. So these 5 key areas are going to be collaboration with the community, parenting and learning at home, volunteering, decision-making, and communication.
Can't hear you any longer.
No?
I'm still hearing you, so
Can you hear me? Paul, can you hear me still?
I can hear you too.
Okay, that might be a, Paul, hopefully we can get you back on here in a second.
I hear you now.
Okay, great. So what this is gonna look like, if you click this link, I'm gonna push this into the chat right now. So give me a second, and it's gonna take you to this website. I gave you some visual steps here on the slide in which you'll click possibly the tier 1 or whatever tier you're gonna be in your discussion. And then you're gonna come up with the PDF, and it has the key indications on the left-hand side. So whatever group you're in, take a few minutes to read that, see what level you may be on, talk about strategies in which you may be able to improve your practice. So the 2
Hey,
questions.
Brian.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't think the link is working. It looks like the H was left off.
Oh, good point. I think I rushed it there. Sorry about that. Let's try that. There we go.
Yep.
So here are the 2 guiding questions that we have. For each of those key areas, what is going well and how do you know? And then what are some ways your team can improve your practice? So pretty simple questions, but I'm pretty sure you can get pretty deep in your response with that. So with that being said, it's 9:30 now. I'm gonna push out these breakout rooms, and I'm probably gonna pull you back around 9:45-ish. Any questions before we do this? All right, fingers crossed that this always works. All right, I'm gonna let you select your room that you want to go to. And we'll see you back here in 15. So find your breakout room, tier 1, early childhood, elementary, tier 1, middle school, high school, and then that group 3 would be tier 2, tier 3, all grade levels. District people, other consultants, you guys can
How do
pick
we
whatever
see
you feel.
how do we see what breakout room we're in?
You get to choose. So whatever building or capacity you're working in, you can kind of choose which one would fit your need.
All right.
Hmm.
So where are the breakout rooms? I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's all right. It should be pushed out, it should be on your screen if you have
I
not on
don't
there.
see anything, no. I'm looking in the
Right.
chat. It's not in the chat, right?
Let me see which
Another screen, maybe.
let me see. Let's see, I can assign, it says not joined. I don't know why.
Oh, I see.
Go down to the very bottom. and you'll
Right,
see
I see the
four
breakout room.
squares.
No,
So click on that and it'll open up and then it will let you choose which.
okay. I got it.
There
Thank
you
you.
go. Thank you for that. Different on my end. I have it pulled up, so.
If there's anyone else that needs help selecting a breakout room or is having difficulty finding where to, how to enter the breakout rooms, please let us know. We can definitely assist you with that.
Sydney, do you need any help with anything? Do you wanna go? You're good? Oh, she's on the call. Gotcha.
Yeah. No, I'm working with Gina. We're just chatting about which room to go to. So
Gotcha.
out in a moment.
Great. Lori, I know. Lori, do you have a room that you want to go to? You sure you went? All right. And then.
I'm in 211 because we have Project Red. I think it's I think it's yep.
Make his computer.
Oh, gotcha. Hey, Heather.
During my lab. And
Oh.
it was crazy.
Looks like everyone's in a breakout room.
Yeah, everyone is.
Do you have us muted or we're not muted?
We're not. Sean,
Okay.
is.
Okay, gotcha.
To what we're supposed to be reading, but I don't see where it's at.
Right, so that's true. I didn't see that either.
Okay, so it's not just me. I'm looking
Are
on
there
the website, I
questions?
see that. There's a
Now-
link for the Ohio State
Tell me to
University,
scroll
but
down.
not that.
It should be a link to the.
Take a look, if you look in the chat,
When it's like a lot of info, we're supposed to pull up that table, correct?
if you take a look in the chat and scroll down as far as you can, you'll be able to see there's a link, Ohio Families Engage.osu.edu. If you click
Okay.
on that,
Okay, I did that.
okay. And that link will get you to,
It's just the general site.
okay, right, just,
So,
okay, so there's also, give me a second, I'm going there as well. Because we are looking for the rubric.
It should say download PBIS family engagement tier 1 rubric.
Okay, so from there, we'd have to actually download the rubric. In the meantime, while we're looking for this, we can start reflecting on a couple of those questions that were posed to us to discuss in the breakout room. What's going well and how do you know? And what are some strategies that you can put in place to improve current practices? So if you all would like to get going on that, I'm going to take a little deeper dive to see if I can access that rubric for us. But again, what's going well with regard to your engagement of
Recording in progress.
All right, we're welcoming everyone back to the large group. Making sure everyone's in here before we start. Well, I want to say thank you for everyone for participating in those group discussions as we kind of walked around, watching our facilitators help lead those discussions. It sounded like there was some really good stuff. One, I want to first apologize. The link I put in there was to the main site, and it wasn't actually straight to the document. I don't know if it went through, but there's a couple of people that pushed it out throughout the chat. So with that being said, I apologize for that confusion. It is in the chat, so if you want to check that out, if you didn't have a chance to, it's there, so you can kind of, build your conversation with your teams around that. So I'm going to ask for volunteers to share out, and then maybe the biggest takeaways that you got from your group as it relates to these two main questions that we had. Do we have anyone want to share out right now?
You got this, Heather.
Go ahead, Heather.
All right, here I go. So I'm from Garrity Elementary in Cleveland Heights, University Heights, and we just this year had parents come to our actual PBIS meetings because that's something that we needed to add to our process. Last year we had a couple parents that we would meet with after the meeting, but we decided to jump in this year and invite them in. So my point is that we got some really good feedback the last time in November from a parent based on our expectations. And I don't think we would have necessarily saw it the way they did. And it was eye-opening for us. So like, for example, our expectations, we have 4 of them. It's personal best, acts responsibly, works and plays safely, and shows respect. While when we were analyzing our data from the PBIS rewards app that we do use for acknowledgements, we saw that the majority of the teachers were awarding the expectation that was being rewarded or acknowledged the most was personal best, which number 1, like Danielle mentioned, is not very specific. It's easy. Oh, you're doing great. Here's a point. Oh, you're doing great. Here's a point. But there's no feedback with that. But the parent had us look at it deeper and saw that she said, well, I want my child to feel safe at school and respected. And that's my biggest thing. And you guys, and as a staff, those are the lowest 2 that you're rewarding. And so when she brought that up to us, that we're rewarding generic things like personal best the most, and not really focusing on the safety and respect and showing that as, what we need to continue in our environment, in our culture. It was eye-opening, because then I thought about it as a parent, and I'm like, you know what, you're right. We do need to acknowledge that more, because that's why you hope when you send your kids to school, they're going to be safe and respected, right? So it was eye-opening for us.
That's awesome that you're using that feedback too, not just to have a sounding board, but to actually change what you're doing in the building. So that's great feedback. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Good the cause. I know we heard some really good conversations with the secondary folks about, how sometimes that can be a little bit more difficult getting parents involved, because sometimes in some places it feels like it's going to be more of a disciplinary action piece, which that's when the parents become involved in trying to change that mindset. I thought that was a good conversation that they were having. Anyone else? I do want to respect everyone's time along with the presenters, so we do want to move forward. But if there is something that was a great takeaway, please feel free to put in the chat, and we will acknowledge it as we continue to move forward. So, all right. So your feedback does matter. So if you can, prior to this completion of this network, please do this evaluation. It helps us, make adjustments, and your feedback does matter. So your certificate of participation will be emailed to you using this information from your attendance login. So this does help us. Click that link and give us your thoughts.
Hey, and in our last 7-8 minutes here together, we like to bring you state PBIS updates and some resources. And this is the time where I awkwardly tell you that I really would like some recognition updates for you, and we don't have them yet. However, there's reason to strongly believe, nothing's finalized, but we talked a little bit today, and Erica showed some really good examples of the self-assessment survey. And I wanted to tell you verbally, at least, that we really are hearing pretty strongly that the self-assessment survey is going to be strongly encouraged or required this year. Now, I know a lot of you as districts are in a cycle of completing that. So that's wonderful. I'm not saying panic, go send the link out immediately, but just put that on your radar, especially as it links to what we talked about today, getting some feedback. And if you really are looking for a survey to engage your staff and your families, the self-assessment survey, and one we've shared in the past, that feedback and input survey for families from PBIS apps is